Hello, I'm Agnieszka Holland. I'm a director of several movies, including The Green Border recently, Charlatan before, Mr. Jones, In Darkness, etc., etc. I've been 3 times Oscar nominee, and I wanted to introduce my colleague, young colleague, Maura Delpero, who is the director of wonderful film. I hope you watched already, and if not, I hope you will be watching soon. The film is called Vermiglio. It is on the short list for International Academy Award, and I would like to do everything to convince you that you have to see that film. And when you will, I'm pretty sure you will love it. It was one of the biggest surprise, positive surprise to me last year. I didn't expect anything when watching that film, and when I did, I had the impression that I had the real experience, human experience, artistic experience, filmmaking experience, and it was like the travel to the world I know and I don't know at all. So, Maura, tell something about the origin and the roots of that film, which is so simple and so special in the same time.
Hi, Agnieszka. Thank you so much for this time. I'm really so happy that you're here with me. It has a very personal root because it comes out of memories of my family, of my father's family. And this was both a big advantage and a big disadvantage. But at least it was something that I had to deal with at the beginning, asking myself whether something so personal could turn into a film that could be universal. Um, so it comes out of childhood memories because the family of my father was this big family, this big mountain family. And of course, when you are a child and your father has a big family, you hear a lot of stories. Also, you spy on a lot of stories you shouldn't hear, and you kind of absorb a world that is not yours, but it becomes yours. And especially in childhood, it's a way of absorption that's very sensorial. So while writing and directing this film, I was guided by really by the five senses of a lot of smells and sounds and tastes I remembered from my grandmother's house and village. And and this was really the big advantage because in general, while writing and directing, I try to fish in my unconscious because I think there are the most interesting things, the one that are not so filtered, but what we want to write and direct, but there is just what we should write and direct. So I try to put myself in a connection with that hidden part that has a lot of treasures we don't know. It sometimes comes out in the oniric space in our dreams, but then when we do our day by day life, it's kind of um, silent. So I try to put myself in that situation. In this case, there was also a particular dream, a specific dream that gave the okay to the film. And it was a dream about my father. And I saw him playing with his siblings in his childhood home. And I began to write following these kids, um, this community of people playing in this cloister town that was this little town. Um, and I felt that that was a word that was worth to tell now. That it was a past that was still in relationship with our present. After the wars, we had a big economic boom, and the people went from to the cities. And I feel that there we begin to be more individual, more individualistic, more free at the time. And our world changed a lot. It also coincided in the moment in which Italian television began, uh, and that we began to be a nation that's speaking the same language. So I don't know how much the international audience can understand this, but the film is completely in dialect because at that time there was just region in Italy that's just talked their specific dialect. That's why also Pietro the soldier, when he arrives, he comes from Sicily, he's really exotic in a way. He's Italian, but he represents another world, and that is also his fascination. Um, so to answer
Yeah,
the question,
unfortunately, that dimension is not it's not clear to us. But um, even if we don't, even if we cannot recognize the different dialects and different accents from Italy, I think that the fact that you kept it gives the specific feeling of the truth, of something very visceral, very, very sensual and very real. And it struck me when watching the film. I had the impression that I smell and I feel and that I'm there, and that the childhood of the children is not like conventional kind of the storytelling about the children, that we are seeing the glimpses of that, but in that glimpses you feel the totality, some kind of the pars pro toto with every character. And that is really a great craft, because I directed several films with multiple characters, and I know how difficult it is to give everyone the life and the specific kind of the existence, which is not only fulfilling the storytelling, but which is giving the space, special space, to every character. And every child character is extremely alive, and everyone is different from other. Uh, and it reminded me somehow Ingmar Bergman film, the film about his childhood, Fanny and Alexander. Have you seen that one? Yeah.
I just I just did recently the Criterion Collection, and I was asked about my favorite films, and then of course then they have to be died because it's too long. So I chose Fanny Alexander. Then it didn't. Uh, it's not in the video, but it was one of my choices. I really love that because I think in that film you really have that gaze that is also camera wise. You really are with the child, with the eyes of the child. Um, and this has to do with, I think it has to do with both the creative process and the production decisions. Um, so when you I try when I write about children to put myself in really in the skin of that child. I try to go back to childhood and ask the questions that I would have asked in that moment. And it's also the questions that are still in me that maybe no one answered, and I have the possibility to ask. But I try to put myself in those shoes. And then, productive wise, it's a matter of, and this is connected to the dialect thing we were talking about. It's not going to the capital, to Rome, and opening a casting with thousands of kids coming that are bringing their culture, that is a city culture, a contemporary culture, but it's like accepting that this will be a very little casting in the valley with the kids of the valley that bring their dialect, which is not just language. As you say, you feel it because it's they move differently, they act differently because their relationship to nature is still very alive, differently to city. It's not so filtered by technology, and it's also that they still have grandparents that are there, they are really in connection with animals, that are really, they are in a very far away place from other possible like intervention of contemporaneity. So in a way, I think this has to do with the decisions you take that sometimes are difficult, of course, but give authenticity to the film. And then, as you say, the last thing you were saying about the Cora movie, I'm happy that you appreciate because you deeply know how it's difficult. Um, It was difficult to write and to direct, of course, but I think it was important to defend this plurality, because sometimes when you are in a production moment, you kind of hear that someone tells you, okay, can you cut away a couple of things, a couple of children, or because there are many. And it's, no, it's not a matter, it's really, those people had a lot of children because children were strength to work, and they were fortune, they were luck, and it was important. Also, they were dying, some of them were dying, so it was a world full of children. So in a way, you have to accept that you're really working on plurality. And as you say, in cinema it's difficult to tell about plurality, because they kind of, you go always risk to lose the emotion going from a character to the other. But what I try to do in the first part of the film is really to talk about a community. So those beds that you see at the beginning, you kind of don't see the borders between a body and the other, because they're really like, they're more kids than beds, and it's like, it's that world, and they are all intertwined and ringed. And you're talking about individuals, but also about the community. So to me, it was really important to have this chorality, this world that is made out of a lot of people that belong to something bigger than them. In this case, the family and the village.
So you've been talking that the children, the casting of the children you did in the valley, they are local children, and the grown-up actors, where they are coming from.
I knew from the very beginning that it would have been a mixed cast, and that except for some professional actors, most of them would be local, also the adults. So all the extras are from there, but I would say that in this film, it's not a matter of extras, because extras are someone who you see in the backdrop walking on a square. Extras in a little village are people. I mean, are the same people you always see in the church, in the bar, in the school, because they are really, when you live in little villages, you kind of, everyone is relative and they're always the same face. So they were very important because each face was talking about a culture and about a world, about a time and space. So I was choosing every extras one by one, every children, every adult, and also known professionals of the valley are the secondary characters, like doctors, the priests, like all these people that come, that appear in the village, and then of course, all the children, all the teenagers, inclusive the main character, Lucia. She's from the region. She had a little experience, but I mean, she's the only one who really wanted to be an actress. The others were like,
Mhm.
we went to the schools. I went to agricultural school. I don't know how to say it in English, but a school where teenagers go when they want to work with nature and the animals. From that school, we found Ada, the second daughter, and
Esther?
the
Mhm.
big one, who really work with animals. I mean, Dino in his life, he accompanies 1,000 sheep from a valley to the other. So if you look at his hands, you really see that he's not a teenager.
Yeah, I
He's
noticed. I noticed. He's very interesting character, very, very touching. And the father is professional actor, of course,
Yeah,
right?
he's a professional actor. It was I knew from the very beginning that the father would be a professional actor, because there it was not just a matter of culture, it was a very multi-layered character and a very contradictory one. So I needed an actor to work on this. But still, it was a challenge because Tommaso was, I mean, it was kind of a counter role for him, because he was asked to be like the beautiful and damned city man. If you look at his last films, he's like with long hair, drug addicted, really completely different. So at the beginning, he was like, "Are you sure?" Um, but he was really willing to accept this challenge, and we worked a lot. I brought him to the valley and I asked him to imitate people. to look at them. To also, it's not a matter of, it's also a matter of zone of Italy. It's a very specific zone of Italy, very different from the Italian, like, stereotypical way. Also, we know abroad is they're really like very mountain people, very closed. They speak very little. They don't express too much emotions. And at that time, with a very patriarchal world, that was even much more. So sometimes Tommaso would have loved to, would have felt as a contemporary man that he had to express things in another way, and we strongly worked on his being this patriarch that is also, he's not just the father, he's also the local teacher, and at the time the local teacher was a very important
Right,
person in the
right.
village, you know, very
Yes.
an
And
authority.
the fall of his daughter was more sensible than the fall of the some peasant daughter. Um,
Yeah.
how war is important to you? What was the meaning of the war here, except of the that it is a part of the storytelling of the story,
I
but
asked
that
myself,
war which 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 is so far away and in the same time influences the life of the people. And it could be First World War also, that space is so timeless somehow that you don't feel that modernity, and it's very few details which shows actually what year we are in.
to me it is a war film without the war. um, I really wanted to give some space to the people who are not told in history books. Like, I think a lot of people did their work day by day, and they are not celebrated with their big battles. But I think that the mother struggling in a kitchen in order that her babies not to die, and counting potatoes for his children. I mean, both my grandmothers had a moment in which they didn't know what to give their children to eat, and I think this is something you cannot bear.
Mhm.
It's such a an enormous tragedy. You want to give everything to your children, and you don't ever even don't have to give them food. So in the case of my grandfather's family, there was a little more because he had this job, but it was still times in which, even if you're not in the battlefield, war is there all the time and influences your life all the time. And also, besides this one thing of talking about ordinary people and not heroes, and not the very heroic and epic aspect of war. I also think that sometimes off screen is very powerful. And I thought that it was interesting to work on this idea that the war is something big and theoretical, as as they explain to us in the school. And that's why the little child, Pietrin, when he sees Pietro arriving from war and the cousin, he really has big eyes on them, because it's like, oh, this is the face of war. Ah, they are the soldiers. This is the famous soldiers that are at war. And these famous soldiers are not heroes at all. They are broken men. Their eyes are wide. They don't have words anymore. They saw what no human being should see. And I thought this was an important way to talk about the tragedy of war. This depression that they have, that they bring to the town, is like the thing that the war you cannot tell about the war. When the teacher asks Pietro about war in school, in a very simple way, he says that you cannot tell, because it's so stupid that they could have killed me, and it didn't kill me because I was 1 centimeter from far away,
Until
and
yes,
they shot,
right.
and out of luck. And this is so incredibly stupid, and this is war. So, and I think also through the character of the teacher, that is both this patriarch typical, but also he has something towards the future and something more illuministic. He has the courage to say to the other peasants, that maybe cowardice is a good thing, that maybe we shouldn't be so courageous to go to war. Maybe escaping from a war is, if we were cowards, all of us, maybe there wouldn't be wars. So I think it has a very anti-militaristic subliminal sense, and I think it comes out of all the stories I heard about from my grandmother, both the father one and the mother one, talking about how much they suffered, how much they were deprived from life.
I think that the time is running. I wanted to ask you so many questions also about the feminist feminist aspects of the film, because we are seeing how the women, those young women, young girls, are growing to some kind of the inner independence, and that is also very touching and very important. But I think we have to finish now to keep the format. So I'm really glad I had occasion to listen more from you, and I hope it will be also interesting to everybody who will watch it. So watch Vermiglio, Maura Delpero film.
Thank you, Agnieszka. Thank you so much.
Thank you.